Okay, first off, don't be mad at me. I was actually getting tea. That was actually the thing I was doing. So, please have mercy. Secondly, this tea. It tastes like a catharsis, I think, and karma, I think. I'm not sure. Must have gotten something caught in it. I don't know. Welcome, everybody. This is, I don't know what to say about this. I haven't read through it completely everything, but I skimmed it. My goodness. All right. There's it's so difficult with things like this because it's like I don't know what anybody was expecting to happen, because it kind of also feels like called it. I feel like I called this. But I mean, I guess Tati finally had enough. But I do want to show you guys this this tweet here before we start onto the onto this, because this is gonna be a read. So go away. So I do want to show you guys this. Oh, bugger off. I do want to show you guys this real quick. So I'll turn that up, make it so you guys can hear it. And
the kicker. They have been in this dispute for 2 years with this business partner, and the business partner is alleging that 18 days ago, James Westbrook liquidated all the cash in Halo Beauty's bank accounts and paid it out to members, i.e. him and Tati, I'm guessing, without the knowledge of their partner. And he has effectively, according to this lawsuit, rendered Halo Beauty worthless as they prepped for liquidation, or for like this lawsuit. And so they're alleging that they stole money from the company, knowing that this lawsuit was coming, so that there would be no money to fight over. And this is exactly what he did to his sisters with his mom's house. So when probate was going on.
So if you guys caught that, it started off with her saying this is what they're alleging, and then changed to this is what they did before. So just to be clear.
And they were fighting over everything, and his sisters had to sue him. He ended up liquidating his mom's house to the point where it was zero. He had put in so many reverse mortgages that the house had no equity, so there was nothing for his sisters. Exact same thing, according to this complaint, to his business partner only 2 weeks ago.
So there's that. And then down here, we've got this, here's an example of what they say I said false. Quote, the lawsuit accuses James Westbrook of liquidating hundreds of thousands of dollars of Halo Beauty's assets on October 10th, 2020, as the Westbrooks learned about the case, effectively devaluing the company. Is that not what she said? That sounded like what she said. I think that's what she said. Okay, so let's take a look at the lawsuit itself. So the case number is 220-CV01606. It was filed on October 30th, 2020, and this is page 1 of 34. So if you guys are ever going looking for this, it's going to be the Western District of Washington at Seattle. So this is public record. Plaintiffs are listed as Tatiana, James, Halo Beauty Partners, and then an LLC. The defendants are Katie Joy Paulson, Without a Crystal Balls LLC. Well, there you go. So, Plaintiff 1, Tatiana Westbrook, hereinafter Tati, is and at all relevant times was an individual whose domicile is in King County, Washington, and who is a citizen of the state of Washington. Tati is the former owner and chief executive officer of Halo Beauty Inc. Plaintiff James Westbrook, hereafter James, is and at all relevant times was an individual whose domicile is in King County, Washington, and who is a citizen of the state of Washington. Plaintiff 3, Halo Beauty Products, LLC, hereinafter Halo is a Nevada limited liability company with its principal place of business in the state of Nevada. Plaintiffs Tati, James, and Halo are herein collectively referred to as plaintiffs. Upon information and belief, defendant without a crystal ball, LLC, herein defendant or crystal ball, is a Minnesota limited liability company, that's the LLC, authorized to conduct business in the state of Minnesota. Defendant Crystal Ball's principal executive address is address. Upon information and belief, defendant Katie Joy Paulson, hereafter defendant or Paulson, is and at all relevant times was an individual whose domicile is the state of Minnesota. The true names and capacities, whether individuals, corporate, associate, or otherwise of defendants, does 1 to 100 inclusive, are known to plaintiffs, who therefore sue said defendant by such fictitious names. Plaintiffs allege on information and belief that each of the defendants designated herein as a fictitious named defendant is in some manner responsible for the events and happenings referred to, either contractually or tortuously, and or that such fictitiously named defendants are liable in some manner for the damages described herein. When plaintiffs ascertain the true names and capacities of 1 to 100, plaintiffs will amend this complaint accordingly. Defendants Paulson, Crystal Balls, and 1 to 100 are herein collectively referred to as defendants. Now, if I am not mistaken, just the other day, Katie was saying she would not be named in a lawsuit and she couldn't be sued for, reasons. This is the jurisdiction. So this court is subject matter. This court has subject matter jurisdiction under 28 U.S.C. section 1332 because there is complete diversity of citizenship between plaintiffs and defendants who are citizens of different states. The plaintiffs allege that their damages exceed $5 million. $5 million. So her little super chat over on Unirock's channel saying that it wasn't her getting sued for $5 million. Turns out that was a lie. Or at least wrong. Exclusive of interest and costs, thus the matter in controversy exceeds the jurisdiction minimum of $75,000. So this is essentially just explaining why they have jurisdiction even though they're in multiple states. This court has personal jurisdiction over defendants because they committed torts with the state of Washington and this defendant. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that defendants directly targeted plaintiffs who are resident of this district. Venue is proper under 28 U.S.C. section 1391B2 because a substantial part of the events giving rise to plaintiffs' claims occurred in this district. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that defendants' behavior and wrongful conduct as described in this complaint substantially occurred and or was specifically directed at plaintiffs within the jurisdiction of the Western District of Washington. So this is entirely just explaining why this court case is happening in Washington and not in the defendant's state. General factual allegations. Plaintiff Tati is an internet personality, celebrity, and influencer. Tati has worked as a beauty products critic under the, I don't know this word, sobriquet? Sobriquet. glam life guru. Tati critiques beauty products and posts those critiques on social media platforms, including YouTube. Tati has over 9 million followers on YouTube alone. James is married to Tati and is an entrepreneur and business person with many years of successful business experience. Plaintiff Halo is a company formed by Tati and James. It is a what? Okay, hold on. I'm looking this up. I don't know how to pronounce this. Go. How do I pronounce this? Tell me. Fine. Definition. Nutraceutical. Oh, a food containing health-giving additives and having medical benefit. Nutraceutical. It is a nutraceuticals company that produces products formulated to support hair, skin, and nail health. Neat. Upon information and belief, Plaintiff Paulson identifies herself and holds herself out to the public as a journalist. Yes, she does. Upon information, please tell me you guys remember that clip of her husband saying, "You don't tell people that though, do you?" Former defendant, where was I? Public as a journalist. Upon information and belief, defendants claimed that Pathos.com was defendant Paulson's former employer. Upon information and belief, defendant Paulson never was an employee of Pathos.com, and Pathos.com cut whatever ties it had with Paulson, in part due to improper conduct, including her propensity to maliciously publish false and misleading information about third parties in her postings. That's an oof. That's a oof. Upon information and belief, defendant Paulson is an internet blogger and vlogger who makes, produces, and uploads drama and or tea videos and internet posting. I actually didn't wear my Without a Crystal Ball shirt. I was going to, but I did not. Because I was late, and I apologize. Drama and or tea videos and internet postings on various internet-based platforms, including but not limited to YouTube and Twitter. Upon information and belief, defendant Paulson intentionally publishes false and defamatory matter to denigrate others through sensationalism and fabrication of perceived drama for the sole purpose of enticing followers and viewers to help defendants monetize defendant Paulson's pages and channels on her various social media platforms. This is savage. What are you eating your foot? Can you Puck? Stop. Boop. Upon information and belief, defendant Paulson intentionally engages in being an internet troll under both her own name and various pseudonyms for the purposes of harassment and causing others consternation, grief, emotional distress, and to otherwise cause damage to their reputation, well-beings, and livelihoods. Upon information and belief, defendants have a history of intentionally, maliciously, and or recklessly publishing false and or misleading information about various people and entities, including plaintiff. So, I don't know if you guys noticed, right, this various people and bringing this up opens this case up. Hi, Puck, yes. Opens this case up to essentially anybody that Katie has done something like this to in the past. So that's going to include Matt Byer, Amber Portwood, the Duggars, Steve, Sherelle potentially. So this opens this up to being like, hey, no, you've been doing this to everybody. So the discovery period could bring all of that up. So everything that got covered in the TLDR that I did last year, plus anything that's been additive onto that, that's a big oof. That's a big oof. Upon information and belief, defendants tout themselves as established defendants. So this is talking about Katie and anybody that she's working with, because this also is implying, or this is also naming that she is working with other people and using pseudonyms, and the other people she's working with could also be caught in they're casting a huge net here. Upon information and belief, defendants tout themselves as established YouTube personalities and self-proclaimed internet trolls with a professed obsession with plaintiffs. In fact, upon information and belief, Paulson has openly stated on her various platforms that she will not stop going after plaintiffs, and she has otherwise openly dared plaintiffs to sue defendants so that Paulson can misuse the discovery process to inflict more damage upon plaintiffs. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I actually saw that clip earlier. I wonder if I can pull that up. Hold on, uno momento, por favor. I'm pretty sure I have a clip of that. Let's see here. Well, there's her super chatting to Unirock, and that's her saying she's an internet troll. I mean, do you guys want me to... You guys need that? You guys want to see that? Here you go. I'll show you guys this one. Why not?
I have amazing trolls that help me with Jillian stuff. Like, they're the best trolls. And they know they're trolls, and they don't even care that they're trolls, but they are the best trolls. And I love my Jillian trolls.
Let's see.
Well, that's awkward. Where is the one of her saying she would never get sued? Nah, I'll find it later. Oh, you know who's probably got it? I think I know. I was looking at the wrong page. Here we go. I believe this is it right here, if I am not mistaken. So special thanks to both of these accounts.
Myself at risk. I'm not going to be a party of this lawsuit. Like, to be honest, like, I have not... Here's the thing why I know they're never going to sue me. They're never going to sue me because if they sue me, they have to basically open discovery. And then I can say, well, did you not do this? Prove to me that you didn't do this. You know, show me the evidence that this didn't happen. They're never going to sue me because the discovery for me would be terrible for them. And then I could, you know, I could also file a lawsuit against them for harassing me to take it down. You know what I mean? Or for filing a false lawsuit against me. I could easily do a complaint against them. So there's no way they're going to file a lawsuit.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
A lawsuit about me. She'll threaten me, but she's not going to sue me. She's got way bigger fish to fry right now. This is way bigger. It would be a waste of time. Yeah, and people that report, I was talking to my lawyer yesterday, not about this, but in general. And he said that people that report are like literally very protected by the
reporting.
Okay. If they were going to sue me, it would have already happened. It literally would have already happened. It would have happened. It would have happened 18 months ago when they wanted me to take this down, when they sent me 4 cease and desists. They never sued me because they're not going to sue me based on public records. And I have a right to have my opinion, and I have a right to talk about public records if it involves a public figure.
Well, then I guess you'll have no problems with me reading this out. Yeah, that's not how that works, by the way. You don't get to just say whatever you want. This is why you kind of get into a situation where I saw a clip of her saying that you can't go after, like, oh, this is going to harm all T channels, etc., or all drama channels, or all commentary channels, except that there's a lot of commentary channels out there that have this thing called integrity, which essentially means they check themselves before they wreck themselves. Anyway, let's keep going. Upon information and belief, defendants have approximately 135,000 followers on YouTube alone. Upon information and belief, defendants are infatuated with the concept of exposing plaintiffs, and it appears that others who are currently unknown are conspiring with and or feeding defendants private/confidential information about plaintiffs for the purpose of harming plaintiffs. This right here sounds awfully familiar with what Steve and I deal with on a regular basis. I wonder what kind of precedent this sort of thing will set. In May of 2019, defendants stated publicly in a YouTube video titled James Charles Cancel Sisters Tour that they intended to target plaintiff Tati, her family, and her business, and do an expose on Tati as retribution for what defendants perceived as Tati's alleged mistreatment of another internet personality. Whap whap. True to their word, defendants thereafter obsessively fixated on Tati and her family to try and ruin Tati's good name and reputation, and otherwise intentionally damage everyone around Tati. Am I saying her name right? I feel like I'm going to get corrected later that it's Tati and not Tati, but I feel like that might be my Canadian accent coming through. Upon information and belief, defendant intentionally harassed and maligned plaintiffs and or otherwise maliciously portrayed them in a false light and sought to financially harm them. Upon information and belief, defendant even went as far as to tell their social media followers that Tati and James are demons. Wah! It's Tati like hottie? Oh, it's Tati. Oh, okay, I will correct from now on. It's Tatiana. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Upon information, can you tell that I don't? Don't? Tati. Got it. Upon information and belief, in addition to countless social media postings and articles, defendants have devoted at least 40 YouTube videos to discussions about plaintiffs since May of 2019. These videos include, but are not limited to, so who's suing whom altogether? Yes, so we have a list. I can show you the list again right here. The plaintiffs are listed as Tatiana Westbrook, James Westbrook, and Halo Beauty Partners, who are suing Katie Joy Polson, an individual and Without a Crystal Ball LLC, as the defendant. Okay, where was I? Here we go. Videos are include but are not limited to. I'm gonna count these, so count them with me, people. 1. A video entitled, quote, The Truth About Vitamins Surrounding Tati and James Charles, uploaded on or about May 11th, 2019. 2. A video entitled Tati's Story is Falling Apart, uploaded on or about May 13th, 2019. 3. A video entitled Seattle Waiter Speaks Out About James Charles, uploaded on or about May 13th, 2019. 4. A video entitled James Charles No Longer Cancelled, uploaded on or around about May 16th, 2019. 5. A video entitled Jeffree Star Rolls the Bus Over James Charles, uploaded on or about May 18th, 2019. 6. A video entitled Jeffree Star Apologizes, uploaded on or about May 19th, 2019. 7. A video entitled James Charles Moves On, uploaded about... Are there 40? Jesus Christ. Okay, a lot. 1/4 of a page, a whole page, a whole page, a whole page, and another 1/4 of a page. Alright? That's a lot. That is a lot. Oh yes, I did notice that RNDG Gaming. I just have not addressed it yet. Yes, they are demanding. If you look up here, right here, this little bit is really important. Jury demand. They want a jury. So they want this to go to court. They are demanding that a jury look at this. Why? I don't know. Feel free to speculate. I have no idea. So yeah, this is a list of 40 videos. So, oof. Ugh. Plaintiffs allege on information and belief that defendants have conspired and continue to conspire with others to ruin and sully plaintiffs Tati's and James's reputation, to defame and injure plaintiffs, and to intentionally injure and interfere with Halo's business opportunities. Wow, I wonder how this would read if you apply it to all of the people that have been harassing Steve for 4 years and trying to damage Halo, instead of Halo, non sequitur, and the Great Debate community business. I'm putting business in quotes, the term loosely. Interesting. Upon information and belief, defendants initiated a series of defamatory and disparaging attacks against plaintiff posted on various mediums on the internet, including but not limited to YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pathos.com. Upon information and belief, defendants have created and uploaded to YouTube numerous videos in which they defamed and disparaged Tati, James, and Halo. Upon information and belief, such videos have been viewed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times. Upon information and belief, defendants' improper posts and articles have been published to and or are accessible by the general public, including defendants' posts that contain false and disparaging statements of fact regarding plaintiffs. Wow, SpaghettiOs. Upon information, Llama Girl says, I noticed they forgot to include Katie alluded to Tati's dad being in the mob. Please tell me she didn't do that. But also, please tell me that's not true. Please tell me that's a misunderstanding. But I would probably say the reason why they wouldn't add anything like that would be specifically because they're going after things that they're like, no, she said this thing. This isn't alluding to, this isn't any kind of... This isn't any kind of like, oh, well, maybe this is how this is interpreted. They want like, nope, this is what was said. Godless Scummer for 2 said, to quote Jaronism, interesting. I agree. Interesting indeed. Upon information and belief, defendants have published articles concerning plaintiffs on Pathos.com, including but not limited to a June 3rd, 2019 article entitled The Criminal Background Tati and James Westbrook Are Hiding from Millions. Why? Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm seeing a whole lot of she said that. Oh, God. She said allegedly. Oh no. Okay. Alright. Because of course. Upon information and belief, Tati does not have a criminal background to speak of, which makes the title of the article grossly misleading and defamatory as to her. Yep. Yeah, it does. Upon information and belief, the article states that James has a lengthy criminal rap sheet, and then proceeds to discuss an arrest in 1989 and another in 1990 related to drug use when James was still in his teens. However, the article then fails to mention any further criminal activity over the next 30 years. What is more, the article likewise fails to proffer any evidence that Tati or James have taken any affirmative steps to hide any such matters of public record. As such, the subject article is both intentionally misleading and defamatory on its face. No. Upon information and belief, this subject article further states that James has never been successful in business. James's businesses over the years have been very successful, including his current business that defendants attempt to attack for their success. That is pretty dumb. That is pretty stupid. Oh, this person sucks at business. Let's attack their current business that is doing well and we don't like that it's doing well. What are you talking? The logic is strong. As such, the false generalizations regarding James's entire history as a businessman in said blog is likewise defamatory. Upon information and belief, the article also reiterates, as conclusive fact, obviously false allegations found in an unsuccessful lawsuit filed in Hawaii regarding the inheritance of James's mother's estate. That would be what we heard about her talking about in that clip we just played. Had a valid investigation been performed, it would have been discovered that this lawsuit was filed by James's estranged sister, who was expressly disinherited by their respective mother many years prior, due to said sister having previously sued their mother when her stepfather died in an attempt to challenge the inheritance of a surviving spouse. Well, I guess now we know what happened there. After repeating the scandalous and unproven allegations by his estranged sister, defendant concluded as fact, not opinion, which she did just stated in the clip we just played, that she stated that had happened as fact, that James had defrauded his family. Oh my God. This statement is an obvious, malicious, and blatant lie published solely to inflict damage upon Tati and James, and ignores that said lawsuit was settled by said estate being divided amongst the family members, and that attorney's fees were ordered to be paid from the proceeds of the estate, not from James. Fuck, you're spinning me around, buddy. What are you doing? I can't turn my chair. Thanks. Upon information and belief, the statement in the article that Tati Westbrook's vitamin line was not selling in the way she hoped is both misleading and maliciously false, as the vitamin line more than exceeded expectations, and Tati only lamented that the launch of the line could have gone more smoothly. Correct. I actually looked into this when I did my TLDR to find out what had gone on. Upon information and belief, this statement in the article upon information and belief, the statement in the article that the purpose of transitioning Tati's business from 2019 from an LLC to a corporation was to protect her assets from legal issues in connection with the James Charles fallout is false. It was made recklessly without regards for the truth. The fact remains, LLCs provide the same asset protection as corporations. As such, the only purpose of making such a statement is to intentionally portray Tati in a false light by attributing a nefarious purpose associated with the transition of her corporate structure. Oh my God, there's so many. Upon information and belief, the statement in the article that James Charles has lost millions of dollars as a direct result of his relationship with plaintiff is false, as even Mr. Charles himself expressly stated that his tour was canceled for reasons unrelated to plaintiffs. And upon information and belief, the article in question obviously harms Tati and James's reputation and Halo's future business prospects by falsely asserting a significant amount of defamatory statements. By publishing these falsehoods, plaintiffs have been outrageously defamed. The statements made about plaintiffs amount to a false assertion that they are engaging in current criminal conduct, which is defamatory on its face. Tati is not messing around. Oh my God. Upon information and belief, and by way of example and not limitation, defendants have made additional false, defamatory, and misleading statements such as: upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati when defendant Polson stated as a fact, not opinion, on or about July 1st, 2020 in a YouTube video entitled, quote, "My Experience with Tati Westbrook," that Tati is, quote, "constantly lying and not taking accountability." Upon information belief, defendants were talking about Tati when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about March 2nd, 2020 in a YouTube video entitled, quote, Tati Westbrook's channel is tanking and she is blaming YouTube. Tati is, quote, not honest and, quote, she is not properly disclaiming, ellipses, products she's using by the FTC standards. She is the owner of Halo Beauty, so she should be disclosing that, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about plaintiffs Tati and James on June 16th, 2019 in a YouTube video entitled, quote, Beauty influencer sends my boss a letter, end quote, wherein defendants concede that they recklessly failed to verify the veracity of the false and misleading statements. Conceded false and misleading statements they made about plaintiffs in the video after indicating that she had conducted some background research on plaintiffs James and Tati. Defendant Paulson said, quote, I might have rushed it, to be honest. I may have rushed it a little bit, ellipses. Pieces I didn't have all together, ellipses, end quote. She then stated that her videos might have been disruptive to Tati and James's lives. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 2nd, 2019, quote, her husband who is a career con artist, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 3rd, 2019, quote, he hasn't changed. He stole money from his dying mother, took out loans in her name while she was sick and ill, then stole $340,000 from a lender in California. I think CA is California. End quote. Oh my God. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 2nd, 2019, quote, he had failed and has a long history of crimes, end quote. This is unbelievable. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 2nd, 2019, quote, her husband is a career criminal and scammer, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 3rd, 2019, quote, he stole money from his dying mother, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati on Twitter when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 2nd, 2019, quote, two con artists who destroyed James Charles' reputation so they could pay off debt, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati on YouTube when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about May 25th, 2019, quote, she's lying to sell snake oil, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on YouTube when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about May 31st, 2019, quote, she had a pretty consistent reputation of like fooling people into believing that she's very trustworthy, but then she does a lot of very untrustworthy things, end quote. She covers Tati's stories because she sells junk vitamins. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on YouTube when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 2nd, 2019 in a video titled, quote, the past James and Tati Westbrook don't want you to know, end quote. Quote, I just want you to keep in mind she's been accused of selling snake oil by me And, ellipses, after everything I've done, and I can say without a doubt, her product is snake oil, ellipses. She's manipulating her followers into buying these products and promising results that have zero testing to show that they do anything, end quote. Next quote, let's just say Tati brags that he's a self-made, ellipses. I'll bet when you're stealing money from your family, ellipses, it's self-made, all right, end quote. Oh my god! No wonder she had 4 cease and desists. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Halo on YouTube when Paulson stated as fact, not opinion, on or about June 1st, 2019, quote, "You're stealing other companies' logos, ellipses. It's not completely stealing the logo, it's just it just is kind of stolen," end quote. Oh, am I a bit low? I apologies. I can see if I can turn myself up a little tiny little baby bit. If you need me to adjust my audio. Alright, that's about as good as I can get. I might be speaking a little bit quieter today, of which I apologize. I am catching a cold. Upon information, it's not completely stealing the logo, it just is kind of stolen. What? Okay. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati, James, and Halo on YouTube in a video entitled, quote, "Why I Spoke Out Now About the James Charles / Tati Westbrook Situation," on or about October 14th, 2020, when she stated their business is, quote, "on the verge of imploding," ellipses, and it all relates back to that history that they have of just not necessarily following the rules, ellipses, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants admitted in a YouTube video entitled, quote, "James Charles shares what happens when rumors go viral," end quote. On or about November 29th, 2019, the defendants are aware that Paulson's activities caused plaintiffs damage when Paulson stated that she has been guilty of creating drama and that troll accounts create a massive ripple effect where everyone becomes impacted and untruths become facts. This is like reading into like the precedent this is going to set for things like the Guardian Project, which is trying to stop things or trying to do things about online bullying and things like that. Because this is going to set a ridiculous, like, not necessarily ridiculous in a bad way, but this is an extreme situation that's going to, the same way with the Non Sequitur Show case, that's going to change, it's going to set a precedent at the very least of the way things operate on YouTube and the way things operate on the internet. This is massive, is what this is. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on Twitter on or about October 14th, 2020, when they stated as fact, not opinion, quote, "Last year I reported that Tati Westbrook's husband, James Westbrook, had a history of questionable behavior in relation to alleged fraud. A video I made on his court case infuriated him to the point that they sent someone to my inbox to threaten me. Let's just say I wasn't wrong," end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati on Twitter on or about October 14th, 2020, when they stated as fact, not opinion, quote, "But after receiving a phone call yesterday, I feel sick to my stomach. Tati Westbrook and James Charles used me in their quest to take down Jeffree Star," end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on Twitter on or about October 14th, 2020, when they stated as fact, not opinion, quote, They needed the internet scrubbed of any of Tati's or her husband's wrongdoings before she could put out a video about Jeffree Star. She wanted all the evidence gone so she could pin it on Jeffree Star," end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on Twitter on or about October 28th, 2020, when they stated as fact, not opinion, quote, Tati Westbrook wanted to set up her audience to make them believe she was trustworthy and likened herself to being an angel, but she, S-I-C, was with her husband James Westbrook when he ripped off his family and former friend for nearly $1 million. This time the fraud is more than $5 million, end quote. And getting sued for $5 million. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on Twitter on or about October 28th, 2020, when they stated as fact, not opinion, quote, it seems the Westbrooks attempted to remove blogs by Without a Crystal Ball could have been done to mislead business partners and potentially hide fraudulent activity from investors. What? There are no words. There's nothing. I can't send help. Please. This is having all of these things all lined up, just boom, 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 all after the other is just overwhelming. Holy cow. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter on or about October 28th, 2020, when they stated as fact, not opinion, quote, the lawsuit accuses James Westbrook of liquidating hundreds of thousands of dollars of Halo Beauty's assets on October 10th, 2020, as the Westbrooks learned about the case, effectively devaluing the company, end quote. That is the clip that we played. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati and James on Twitter on or about October 28th, 2020, when they stated as fact and not opinion, quote, Tati Westbrook isn't scared for her life because of Jeffree Star. She and her husband are unloading their assets and trying to dodge their business responsibilities. They don't want anything in their name because they are on the hook for millions to Clark Swanson, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about James on Twitter on or about October 28th, 2020, when they stated, quote, Well, I get that the complaint is one opinion for one partner. James Westbrook's history of fraud lends me to believe that the partner isn't lying, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati on Twitter on or about October 29th, 2020, when they stated, quote, JC, Tati abused you once and used you a second time. Cut ties now. JC, if I'm not mistaken, is referring to James Charles, but what the hell do I know? Upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati on Twitter on or about October 29th, 2020, when they stated, quote, this right here, Tati is lying for 1 minute, end quote. And upon information and belief, defendants were talking about Tati on Twitter on or about October 29th, 2020, when they stated, quote, no quotes there, my mistake. Quote, I dared fact check Tati's assertions that her husband is a great businessman, SIC, end quote. Upon information and belief, defendants have shown a reckless disregard for the truth of their statements about plaintiffs and a propensity for portraying plaintiffs in a false light. While defendants admitted on or about July 2nd, 2020, that they removed statements from articles written about plaintiff that were blatantly false after receiving a letter from plaintiff's counsel, defendants have refused to remove the same or similar false statements from other internet platforms, including YouTube. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Upon information and belief, since July 2nd, 2020, defendants have continued unabated their relentless attack upon plaintiffs with false statements and or statements portraying plaintiffs in a false light. Upon information and belief on or about October 20th, 2020, plaintiff's business partner filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court entitled Swanson et al. Vs. Halo Beauty Inc. et al. Case number 20SMCV01573. In response to the filing of this lawsuit, defendants have devoted numerous hours of content on YouTube and numerous Twitter posts. Defendants even posted on Twitter on or about October 28th, 2020, that they were tipped off about the suit by a source who asked us to break the story, end quote. Remember when we found out that Katie's sources were like kiwi farms? I remember that. Upon information and belief on or about October 28th, 2020, defendants uploaded a video onto YouTube entitled, quote, "I was right about everything. A huge story coming on Tati Westbrook," end quote. In said video, upon information and belief, defendants made the following false statements and or statements portraying plaintiffs in a false light, including, but not limited to, and here we go. Quote, "I now get why James and Tati have been wanting my stuff off the internet. They did not want their business partner to see what he was involved in. They did not want any of those fraudulent cases that he, James, was involved in to become public. They did not want it searchable." 2. Quote, "You don't want to be affiliated with this at all. These are not good people." 3. That Tati and James, quote, "scrub everything so that they can protect things from investors." D. That Tati and James were broke when they launched Halo. That Tati and James had no credit when they launched Halo. That Tati and James had no money when they launched Halo. That Tati and James had no bank accounts when they launched Halo. How would you even have that information? That James liquidated all the cash in Halo's bank accounts and paid it out to members without knowledge of partners, rendering Halo worthless, and that James liquidated his mom's house, quote, "to the point where it was zero. He had put in so many reverse mortgages that the house had no equity," end quote. And that is the clip we played. There is not a shred of truth to any of these claims that defendants state as fact. Moreover, defendants portray James in a false light as they knew this statement was untrue at the time it was made. Generally, one must be 62 years of age to obtain a reverse mortgage. Okay, I'm sorry, that one got me. Yeah. Okay. Defendants are in possession of knowledge that James is well below the age of 62. That's some tasty, ugh. 34. Upon information and belief, defendants falsely state in the, quote, "I was right about everything," and ellipses, end quote, video that Tati and James liquidated all of Halo's cash in advance of a lawsuit being filed. This statement is false on several levels. The Swanson complaint says no such thing. The complaint only alleges that Halo issued a distribution and says nothing about said distribution leaving the bank accounts without any cash. Second, the statement is absolutely false. The truth is that Halo merely went through a standard and routine end of financial quarter distribution in which Clark Swanson took part, and which also left significant sums in the company's operating account to cover current operating expenses. This statement was made for the sole purpose of defaming Tati and James and portraying them in a false light. Oh my god. Moreover, the lawsuit does not state the funds were paid without Mr. Swanson's knowledge. The lawsuit says that he objected to it. Such quarterly withdrawals of funds did not render Halo worthless, nor does the Swanson complaint make such a claim. You're just making shit up. So please keep in mind that I'm not double checking this right now. Perhaps in the future, but right now this is what is being stated in the lawsuit or in the filing. This is what they're saying is true, not what they're... So if there is a lie in here, if any of this information that they're explaining here is not true, you are now running into trouble of saying something that is not true to the court. So that's a thing. 35. Upon information and belief, on or about October 28th, 2020, defendants uploaded a video onto YouTube entitled, quote, Tati Westbrook's legal issues going over the full complaint, end quote. In said video, upon information and belief, defendant made the following false and or misleading statements portraying plaintiffs in a false light, including but not limited to, A, stating that Tati and James listed their house for sale because they wanted to get rid of their assets if they lose the Swanson lawsuit so that people cannot get access to their money, and B, stating that James liquidated all of his assets from Halo Beauty. Intrigued Feline says, you mean perjury? We wouldn't know anyone that would do that, do we? I don't know who in their, if I'm not mistaken, the deposition of Kyle Curtis that recently came out, he named somebody that he talks to regularly or texts with regularly that I'm pretty sure was Katie Joy. I don't know. I can't with this amazing. Upon information and belief, defendant recklessly made these false statements without any supporting information. Ooh, Katie? No. To begin, it is mathematically impossible to liquidate all of his assets if James is being sued at 33% owner of Halo in the Swanson case. In addition, Tati and James moved... It's mathematically impossible. Oh, they did the math. That's my favorite. Somebody did that recently with one of the people that's been cyber bullying and harassing or whatever. Steve, for the past 4 years, had said that he had made like 48 hours of video in 2 weeks or in a week or something, and somebody did the math and was like, that's not... I'm gonna need you to do the math and double check my math because that doesn't sound right. And then somebody did the math on their videos saying that the amount of content that they created was the content about Steve was over 50% of their entire content for the past like 2 years or something. It's hilarious. It was really funny. I think it was, she said that she had only made 6 videos about Steve, but then failed to mention she had only made 11 videos that year or something like that. It was pretty funny. Okay. To begin, it is mathematically impossible to liquidate, quote, all of his assets if James is being sued as a 33% owner of Halo in the Swanson case. In addition, Tati and James moved into the state of Washington in 2018 and became permanent residents there in 2019. A fact known by defendants, as Paulson has made mention of Tati's move to Washington in certain of her videos. Despite having such knowledge, defendant instead claims that Tati and James were selling a house that they no longer lived in for nefarious reasons. So I'm sorry, this is so cathartic, and like I see so much of this online of people constantly making like just more and more egregious and outrageous claims, and it's amusing to, like, and they've jumped the shark so far that the claim you've made is now just so beyond the pale of ridiculous that you're just lying. And that, like, that's like, she knows she was lying. That's what this is saying, that Paulson made mention of her move, so it was known that they did not live there. Like, I deal with this on a regular basis in my own life, so it's really interesting to see this from somebody else's perspective and see kind of where they've gone and putting all of this together. It's wow. Defendants' defamatory statements in videos have caused damage to Tati, James, and Halo. 38. Upon information and belief, defendants initiated these numerous scandalous and defamatory attacks on plaintiff to maliciously damage, disparage, criticize, or otherwise adversely affect plaintiffs. Upon information and belief, defendant expressly seek to destroy plaintiffs' relationships with their business relations, customers, and followers. In fact, in one video, defendant claims that they privately reached out to individuals with whom plaintiff maintained business relationships, repeated their defamatory claims to them, and told them to cut ties with plaintiffs. Where have we seen this before? All of this just is like looking in a mirror. It's like looking in a mirror for the amount of stuff that I've just had to be... I started having to deal with last year. It's like... This is going to set a precedent. That's what I'm coming to the conclusion of. Whatever happens with this case is going to be important with YouTube and Twitter moving forward, and they along with things like the Guardian Project to change the social media landscape in a way that prevents people from bullying and harassing and like having trying to harass someone for 4 years or the things that had happened with with Lily Jean and stuff like that. It's we're looking into the future, people. Upon information and belief, defendants seek to impede and undermine Halo and the commercialization of its vitamin supplement brand, thus inflicting economic damage on Tati, James, and Halo. Plaintiffs have built their highly valuable customer base, reputation, and goodwill over several years. The harm that defendants are inflicting on plaintiffs and continue to inflict, if not enjoined, cannot be calculated at this time, but is believed to exceed $5 million. Oh my god. Damn it, AT2. Damn it, how could you betray me like this? 42. Plaintiffs have requested that... I'm still waiting on your video, by the way. It's like, how late now? Come on, dude. Plaintiffs have requested that defendants take down the false, misleading, and defamatory videos, articles, and tweets, yet defendants have refused to remove the videos and tweets and have continued to publish additional false and defamatory content regarding plaintiffs. Yes, that was the 4 cease and desists. The allegations made by defendant in various YouTube, Twitter, and Pathos.com postings have defamed plaintiffs, disparaged plaintiffs' products, and negatively impacted plaintiffs' relationships with their customers, prospective customers, and business relations. Defendant's willful, disparaging, malicious, and defamatory conduct, as set forth herein, has inflicted and will continue to inflict irreparable harm upon plaintiffs, including harm to their reputation, substantial impairment to their customer relationships and goodwill, and impairment to their relationships with current and potential business partners, which cannot be remedied by money damages alone. No price tag can be placed on harm caused by threatened destruction of plaintiff's reputation as a result of defendants' disparaging and defamatory statements made to the general public, which includes plaintiff's customers, followers, and business relations. Upon information and belief, it is currently impossible to determine how much plaintiffs stand to lose as a result of defendants' improper conduct. Without judicial intervention, the damage and harm to plaintiffs undoubtedly will increase exponentially. It depends on the Doublemint asks a question. What happens if Tati wins and Katie has no money left? So it depends on the state. But in some places they can do things like garnish wages, and in some places they'll do things like start taking assets. Upon information and belief, the existence of irreparable harm is beyond doubt. Without an injunction, defendants' aggressive campaign of disparagement and interference with plaintiffs' prospective economic advantage and business relationships will continue. Upon information and belief, as of October 2020, despite plaintiff Tati remaining offline for a few months, defendants have continued their malicious, aggressive campaign of disparagement and defamation against plaintiff. Upon information and belief, at all relevant times described herein, defendants in doing the acts alleged in this complaint acted in concert, I hate that that's the same word, and conspired with or aided and abetted each other to do the acts complained of in this complaint. And for that, each defendant acted at all times as the agent, partner, co-conspirator, co-venturer, joint venturer, representative, or employee of the other defendants, and acted within the scope and purpose of that agency, partnership, joint venture, or employment, such that the act and conduct of each defendant was known to, authorized by, and ratified by the other defendants. That's huge. That's the kind of this. Okay, let me finish reading it. Plaintiffs are further informed and believe that each of the defendants named herein engaged in wrongful conduct that is a proximate cause of plaintiff's damages and therefore responsible in some manner for the damages sustained by plaintiffs. That's huge. This 49 here is the net. This is the anybody who's been working with Katie Joy and supporting her and assisting, or as this is saying, abetted and helping her get information and going and pushing. This is casting a net onto anybody that is assisting Katie to do the things listed above in the lawsuit. This is a huge, like, hey, all of you situation. All right, so these are now the causes of action. So this is what she's actually going for. These are going to be the quote unquote. They're not charges. They're not like, it's not like the police, but these are what she's. These are the causes of action. So first, number 1, defamation. Plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 49, it's the one we just finished reading, of this complaint as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief, from May 2019 to the present, defendant published to third parties and or caused others to publish to third parties through articles, tweets, Instagram posts, and postings on other internet platforms various written, false, non-privileged statements of fact regarding plaintiffs that were degrading, damaging, disparaging, and defamatory, and made for the purposes of causing plaintiff financial harm and emotional distress. Upon information and beliefs, defendants have also made numerous oral, false, unprivileged statements of fact about plaintiffs which were published to third parties, were degrading, damaging, disparaging, and defamatory, and were made for the purpose of causing plaintiff financial harm and emotional distress. Upon information and belief, these false and defamatory statements made by defendants, as stated above, were posted to YouTube, Twitter, Pathos.com, Instagram, and other global media platforms, which are in the public domain and were therefore published to individuals of the general public, including plaintiff Tati's followers on social media and plaintiff Halo's customers and potential customers, negatively impacting their business and potential business relationships. That's big. Upon information and belief, third parties reasonably understood that defendants' false statements were about plaintiffs Tati, James, and Halo respectively, as plaintiffs were each mentioned by name numerous times throughout the various mediums that defendants chose to publish the defamatory statements. Upon information and belief, defendants published the same or similar defamatory statements to other third parties by way of other means and venues. As a result of defendants' false statements, plaintiffs have been exposed to ridicule and contempt. By refusing to take down the defamatory post currently on multiple internet platforms, defendant continued to make false and misleading statements. Sorry, continue to, not continued. Continue to. Upon information and belief, these statements are intended to carry out a smear campaign against plaintiffs. Monthly revenue of plaintiffs began declining and has continued to decline month over month since defendants' campaign of malice and defamation commenced. There is strong language in here. Upon information and belief in publishing false and misleading statements of fact about plaintiff, defendants acted negligently and or intentionally maliciously and with a reckless disregard for the truth or falsity of such statements. Defendant statements clearly were calculated falsehoods. Defendant's statements were clearly calculated falsehoods and were made either with knowledge of their falsity or with reckless disregard for their truth or falsity. For instance, in a June 16th, 2019 video, defendants admit that defendant Paulson may have rushed publications of false defamatory statements before having all facts. We saw that earlier. And admit that her false statements may have disrupted plaintiffs' lives and business as a result. Additionally, in a July 2nd, 2020 video, defendant acknowledged that they removed false statements from articles but refused to move the same or similar false content from YouTube and Twitter. Defendants' defamatory statements have subjected plaintiffs to hatred, contempt, ridicule, and obloquy. Now, where have we seen obloquy before? SpaghettiOs. As a direct and proximate result of the conduct of defendant as described herein, plaintiffs have been shunned, avoided, and or injured in their occupation or business. As a direct and proximate result of the conduct defendants as stated herein, plaintiffs have been damaged in an amount to be proven at trial, including without limitation emotional distress, mental anguish, loss of income/profits, and loss of goodwill damages, the amount of which is expected to exceed $5 million. Second cause of action. We're at 2. Plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 61 of this complaint as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief from May 2019 to the present, defendant published to third parties false and or misleading non-privileged statements of fact about plaintiff that were degrading, damaging, disparaging, and defamatory for the purpose of causing them harm and to otherwise destroy plaintiff's ability to conduct business through YouTube and through plaintiff's Halo's sales of supplement products. Upon information and belief, defendants published these false statements in numerous articles, tweets, Instagram posts, YouTube videos, Pathos.com posts, and videos on other internet platforms. Such false statements were published to hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, including to plaintiff Tati's followers on various social media platforms and plaintiff Halo's customers and potential customers. Upon information and belief, defendant published the same or similar false statements to other third parties by way of other means and venues. So that's the sending DMs and stuff. By way of example, that could include Discord also. Or, I don't know, Skype? Who uses Skype? I don't know. By way of example and not limitation, these false statements include that that James has a long history of crimes, is a career criminal and scanner, has engaged in theft, engaged in fraud, and has a shady background, has an arrest for possession of drugs that he was trying to hide, has multiple felonies, has a possible incarceration, has a bankruptcy, stole money from his dying mother, has a long rap sheet, has had 4 businesses permanently revoked as evidence he committed fraud, has a judgment against him for over $500,000 for defrauding an investor, has engaged money laundering, and is a career con artist. In addition, she has stated that court records show he took his mom off of oxygen to imply he intentionally killed his mother. I need a source for that. I want to know if this bit, if anybody has this, please tweet this at me or leave it in the comments, because I need to see this. That's insane. Like, why would you say something like this? What? Yeah, if anybody has this, please send it to me, because I would like to see this being said, because like that's a lot to take in. I'm going to get a drink real quick. I'll be back momentarily. I'm just gonna refill my tea and process that I just read. So I'll be back in a moment. Thanks. Okay. I'm back. Wow. Just absolutely wow with this. Also, Luigi, I will be getting back with you today. Yesterday was sort of kind of... I had a lot going on with that time of the month. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was a romping good time, as well as some non sequitur stuff going on. And the day before, I was kind of taking a bit of a day off of online so I could do some artwork. But I will get with you later today. Okay. Whew. B. That plaintiff Tati is a snake and a con artist and has a history of selling snake oil, defrauding lenders, engaging in fraud, money laundering, and lying. That plaintiff Halo is manipulating its customers, stealing property from other companies, and that its products are harmful to human health. Defendants also have falsely stated or implied that Halo's products need to be FDA approved and are not. Upon information and belief, third parties reasonably understood that these false and or misleading statements were about plaintiffs Tati, James, and Halo, respectively, as they were each mentioned by name numerous times throughout the various mediums that defendant Paulson chose to publish her defamatory statements. Upon information and belief, defendants' false statements were made without authorization and without privilege. Upon information and belief, defendants' false statements impute dishonestly and criminal conduct to plaintiffs and were designed to subject plaintiffs to public ridicule, potential violence and contempt, to deprive plaintiffs of the benefit of public confidence, and to injure plaintiffs in their business, profession, or trade. Not enough of this tea is alcohol. I'm out of booze. Jeez. Yeah, I am still out of booze. I have not spent any money on booze in a while. Upon information and belief, by refusing to take down the defamatory posts currently on multiple internet platforms. Hey, if you want to support me and my drinking habits, become a member or join my Patreon. Or send me a super chat. I'm just teasing. I was sorry, I couldn't help it. Alright. Upon information and belief, by refusing to take down the defamatory posts currently on multiple internet platforms, defendants continue to make false and misleading statements with the intent of conducting a smear campaign against plaintiffs. Plaintiffs have lost revenue as a result of defendants' false statement, and these revenue declines have continued to occur month over month since defendants' campaign of malice and defamation commenced. Upon information and belief, defendants failed to use reasonable care to determine the true or falsity of these statements. Further, defendants' publications of these false statements were done intentionally, maliciously, and with reckless disregard for the truth or falsity of the statements. Upon information and belief, defendants have made and continue to make false statements about plaintiff intentionally, maliciously, and or in a grossly negligent manner for the sole purpose of injuring the business and reputations of plaintiff. God, so much of this is something that happens to us on the daily, constantly, nonstop. Yeah. Upon information and belief, defendants' publications of these false statements constitute defamation per se, and plaintiffs are therefore presumed to have incurred damages as a result of such publications. Plaintiffs have suffered harm to their business and reputation and have been exposed to contempt and ridicule as a result of defendants' defamatory statements. As a direct and proximate result of the conduct of defendants as stated herein, plaintiffs have been damaged in an amount which is believed to exceed $5 million. I think too much "I told you so" spilled into my coffee. Tea. It's tea. I don't know why I say coffee. My brain's starting to fall apart already. Third, we're on 3. Trade libel. Trade libel? Oh no. Plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 75 of this complaint, as those set forth herein, fully set forth herein. Upon oh, you know what's a really good drink? You're talking about hard cider. Gold, or spiced rum, like a shot, 2 shots in, apple cider, and then put it in the microwave for 45 seconds. If you can't afford apple cider, because depending on where you live, that stuff's pricey, you can do it with hot water and chai tea and apple juice. So instead of using milk in your tea, you put apple juice in it, and just don't use as much water, or don't use any water. Put the chai tea, depending on how strong you want it, put the chai tea in apple juice, put that in the microwave for 45 seconds, and put your rum in. Delicious. Plaintiff, blah, 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 blah. Upon information and belief, defendants have made numerous... Sorry, I'm looking for distractions from how awful this whole thing is. Like that list is killer. Upon information and belief, defendants have made numerous statements disparaging plaintiff Halo's credibility, business, and products. These statements include, but are not limited to, that plaintiff Halo's selling snake oil and its products are harmful. Upon information and belief, defendants also have stated falsely that plaintiff Halo's products need to be FDA approved, falsely implying that such products do not comply with FDA regulations. Upon information and belief, these statements would be clearly or necessarily understood by third parties to disparage plaintiff Halo's credibility and products in the marketplace. Upon information and belief, defendants knowingly made these and other false and misleading, unprivileged statements of fact and intended such statements to injure Halo's, I don't know this word. What is this? Hold on, I need to look this word up. I have to work up words all the time, especially with all of the lawsuits I've been reading recently.
Pecuniary.
Halo's pecuniary interests. So, for anybody who doesn't know, pecuniary means relating to or consisting of money. And now we know what those words mean. Pecuniary interests with respect to their profession, trade, and business. Upon information and belief, defendants knew that the statements were untrue at the time the statements were made or acted with reckless disregards of the truth or falsity of the statements. Defendants knew or should have recognized that third parties would act in reliance on the statements, causing plaintiff Halo financial harm. So basically this is saying knew or should have recognized, like, yeah, you're still responsible, even if you're like, well, I didn't think that would be that. You can't plead ignorance, basically. Halo has suffered direct financial harm because numerous people have acted in reliance of defendants' false statements, and Halo subsequently lost sales and customers as a result. Plaintiff Halo has been damaged in an amount to be proven in trial, which is expected to exceed $5 million. Fourth cause of action. False light invasion of privacy. Plaintiff hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 82 of this complaint, as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief, defendants have made numerous false statements regarding plaintiffs, which have depicted plaintiffs in a false light in the public eye, including without limitation statements that plaintiffs James and Tati are liars, have engaged in criminal conduct, including money laundering, stealing from plaintiff James's own mother, and intentionally causing plaintiff James's mother's death. Have defrauded investors and customers, and have a history of failed businesses and money management problems. Oh my god. Upon information... Thanks, Puck. I vacuumed yesterday. I need to vacuum again. Upon information and belief, the publicity created by defendants' statements was highly offensive and objectionable to both plaintiffs, James and Tati. Really? You mean saying somebody killed their own mom and stole from her when she was sick might be offensive and objectionable? No. I need to see that clip. I need to see the clip of that being said. I want to believe that that is not true and there is some context that is just not being presented in this case. I'm having trouble. Whew. Both plaintiff James and Tati, and to a reasonable person. Reasonable, yeah, you don't say. And such statements attribute to plaintiff James and Tati's characteristics, conduct, or beliefs, and that are false, thereby placing plaintiffs in a false position before the public. Upon information and belief, defendants published such statements either with knowledge of their falsity or with reckless disregard of their falsity and the false light in which plaintiffs were placed. For instance, in a June 16th, 2019 video, defendants admit that they have rushed publication of their statements before having all the facts, which may have disrupted plaintiffs' lives. Upon information and belief as a proximate result of defendant's false statements and depictions, plaintiffs James and Tati have suffered general damages, including emotional distress and mental suffering, in an amount to be proven in trial, which is expected to exceed $5 million. Plaintiffs James and Tati believe that defendants will continue making false statements depicting them in an offensive and objectionable false light unless and until enjoined and restrained by order of this court. Defendants' continued publication will cause plaintiffs Tati and James great and irreparable injury. Plaintiffs Tati and James have no adequate remedy at law for the injuries being suffered, in that a judgment for monetary damages will not end the invasion of plaintiff Tati's and James's privacy. Ooh, 5th, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference such each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 88 of the complaint as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief, the conduct of defendants as described in this complaint was extreme and outrageous and beyond the bounds of decency tolerated in a civilized society. Wow. That's strong. That's very strongly worded. Upon information and belief, the conduct of defendants was intended to cause plaintiffs Tati and James severe emotional distress and or was perpetrated with reckless disregard to the probability that plaintiffs Tati and James would suffer severe emotional distress as a result. Upon information and belief regarding plaintiff James, the extreme and outrageous conduct of defendants included, but was not limited to, a series of harassment where defendants published to various public medium false statements that plaintiff James was a thief who stole from his dying mother, intentionally caused his mother's death, engaged in fraud, and was a career criminal convicted of multiple felonies with a long rap sheet. Upon information and belief regarding Tati, the extreme and outrageous conduct of defendants included, but was not limited to, a series of harassment where defendants published to various public mediums false statements that plaintiff Tati is a liar, has defrauded investors, and has a history of hiding assets to defraud creditors. Upon information and belief, defendant posts numerous videos and statements about plaintiffs nearly every week, and sometimes even uploads multiple posts and videos on a single day. Upon information and belief, defendants made these false statements about plaintiffs Tati and James either with knowledge of their falsity or with reckless disregard of their falsity. As a direct and proximate result of defendants' outrageous conduct, plaintiffs Tati and James have suffered severe emotional distress and mental anguish, including but not limited to loss of sleep, anxiety, depression, nausea, loss of appetite, loss of weight, fear, sense of helplessness, and despair. As a direct and approximate result of the we saw this word earlier and I feel like I messed it up. How do I pronounce this? Tortious. Oh, it's tortious. Wrongful. Tortious and wrongful acts of defendants, plaintiffs have suffered past and future special damages and past and future general damages in an amount to be proven in trial. Oh my god. So much of this sounds like the crazy garbage that we personally deal with on Twitter, and with the ridiculous number of videos being made about Non Sequitur and Steve. That's basically falls under almost all of that's been described here. Negligent 6. We're on 6. Negligent infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 97 of this complaint as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief, defendants owed a duty to use reasonable care in their conduct with regard to the mental health and safety of plaintiffs Tati and James. It was foreseeable and probable that plaintiffs Tati and James would suffer severe emotional distress from constant onslaught of defamatory statements being made by defendants about plaintiffs Tati and James and their company on social media and aimed at their consumer base. Upon information and belief regarding plaintiff James, the negligent conduct of defendants included without limitation publishing on various public mediums false statements that plaintiff James was a thief who stole from his dying mother, engaged in fraud, and was a career criminal convicted of multiple felonies with a long rap sheet. And this repeats. I'm still going to read it, but I'm just going to read it quickly because this is a repeat of what was before. Upon information belief regarding Tati, the negligent conduct of defendants included without limitation publishing on various public media false statements that plaintiff Tati is a liar, has defrauded investors, and has a history of hiding assets to defraud creditors. Upon information belief, plaintiffs Tati and James are informed and believe that defendants breached the duty of care they owed to plaintiffs by repeatedly harassing plaintiffs in derogatory, defamatory, and outright bullying ways as described in this complaint. Plaintiffs Tati and James have suffered severe emotional distress with objective symptomology including, but not limited to, loss of sleep, anxiety, depression, nausea, loss of appetite, fear, sense of helplessness, and despair. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that as a direct and proximate result of tortious and wrongful acts of defendants as described in the complaint, plaintiffs Tati and James have suffered past and future special damages and past and future general damages in an amount to be proven in trial. Number 7, Washington Consumer Protection Act. Plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 104 of this complaint, as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief, defendants' numerous publications of false and misleading statements directed targeting plaintiffs and their business income for the purposes of fabricating drama and controversy to increase defendants' own number of followers and revenue from their various social media platforms constitutes unfair or deceptive acts or practices in trade or commerce under RCW 19.86.020. Such acts or practices by defendant had and continue to have the capacity to deceive a substantial portion of the public. Wow. Making crap up for drama for donos is being pulled into a court case. A $5 million court case. Holy crap. Upon information and belief, defendants' unfair or deceptive acts or practices affect the public interest because they had or have the capacity to injure other persons as described in this complaint. Defendants' unfair or deceptive acts have caused injury to plaintiffs in their business or property, including loss of followers, loss of consumers, and other lost revenue and profits. Oh my God. Plaintiffs are entitled to recovery of damages in an amount to be determined at trial, plus treble damages, reasonable attorney's fees, and costs for the defendant's violation of the Washington Consumer Protection Act. 8th cause of action, civil harassment. And number 8, plaintiffs hereby incorporate by reference each and every allegation contained in the preceding paragraphs 1 through 109 of this complaint as though fully set forth herein. Upon information and belief, defendants have manifested an intent to expose plaintiffs and have relentlessly pursued plaintiffs. Upon information and belief, since May 2019, defendants have knowingly and willingly engaged in a course of conduct directed at plaintiffs Tati and James, including publishing defamatory statements about them, which has seriously alarmed, annoyed, harassed, and is detrimental to them, and which serves no legitimate purpose. Defendant's pattern and practice of civil harassment targeting plaintiffs Tati and James in violation of RCW 10.14.020 includes, but is not limited to, the following: A. Falsely accusing plaintiff James of having a long history of crimes, being a career criminal and scammer, theft, fraud, having multiple felonies, stealing money from his dying mother, having a long rap sheet, being a career con artist, being a demon, and intentionally killing his mother. B. Falsely accusing plaintiff Tati of being a snake, a con artist, selling snake oil, intentionally and knowingly selling products harmful to the public, having a company that is stealing property from other companies and manipulating its customers by being a demon, and lying. Defendants' knowing and willful course of conduct directed at plaintiffs Tati and James is such conduct that would cause a reasonable person to suffer emotional distress, and which actually caused plaintiffs to suffer substantial emotional distress, including without limitation, loss of sleep, anxiety, depression, nausea, loss of appetite, fear, and sense of helplessness and despair. Plaintiffs Tati and James are entitled to entry of a preliminary and at the conclusion of these proceedings, a permanent injunction against defendants and anyone acting in concert with them or at their direction, prohibiting defendants from making and or publishing, whether directly or indirectly, statements about plaintiffs Tati and James that the court determines are false. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiffs pray for judgment as follows. 1. For judgment against defendant in a sum to be proven in trial. 2. For recovery of attorney's fees and costs as authorized by Washington statutes, including RCW 19.86.090 and common law. 3. For preliminary... Wow! 3. For preliminary and permanent injunctive relief. 4. For pre- and post-judgment interest in the amount of 12% annual. 5. For treble damages pursuant to RCW 19.86.090. And 6. For such other and further relief as the court may deem proper. Dated October 30th, 2020. Blah, 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 blah. That's the court and such. And that is the paperwork. 34 pages of essentially telling the defendant to f*** off. If you would like opinions, Tati's not messing around, and I'm not convinced this is about the money. So, wow. Did she really imply or say that the dude killed his own mom on purpose? What? Please? Hi, Buck. Okay. Could you not? Why? So this is, if anybody is looking for this, it is case 220-CV-01606. It was filed on October 30th. It's the United States District Court, Western District of Washington at Seattle. And it's Tati Westbrook, James Westbrook, and Halo Beauty Products are the plaintiffs versus Katie Joy Paulson, Without a Crystal Balls LLC. A jury has been demanded. So this is going to court. this is not they're demanding a jury. I don't think that there is an opportunity. I'm not entirely sure how it works there because I'm, Canadian. So somebody let me know in the comments down below. Perhaps there may be a lawyer around that would like to comment on this when he has some free time with me, and we can have a chat. And talk about whether or not something like this could even be settled out of court. If this is like this is a little too late situation where she had 4 cease and desist, had the opportunity to stop. According to this, Tati was gone from had not been participating on the internet for a little while, and yet they kept going. How much of this sounds familiar to you guys? Is this not something we deal with on a regular basis? I recommend you guys, I will link this below. If you want more commentary, go check out ComicNut. He covered it. That link is also below. And yes, this is federal. And for anybody who is interested in seeing this kind of behavior stopping and changing when it comes to harassment and bullying and stuff like that, please check out the Guardian Project. They have a Kickstarter right now. You can find that on my Twitter. I will also link that in the description down below. Like, follow, share, subscribe, become a Patreon, become a member, pucks in the chat. I will try to cover and follow this as best as I can, because I think following this is very... This is going to set a precedent, and I think it's going to be an important precedent, and I think it's going to be important to figure out what is going on and what ends up happening. So, wow. Just wow. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I have another Goblin Reads that's a little bit more science-y. It's about the evolution of puppies, so we'll cover that next time. Caffeine Corner is tomorrow over on Steve's channel, and I will see you guys there. Have a good day. Bye.